Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Kick it in. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. On Mac Sports and the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook pages, the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel, also on Twitter and Instagram. Like, share, comment, and please subscribe to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel for all the great NESSP shows. Our website is nessp.info. Check it out. Shows, info, stores, and links. I'm Mac with normally your co-host, Jack Hirsch, but subbing in today is Keith Engel from TGI Sports Talk. We're bringing you all national sports with special focus on the Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Keith. How you doing?
Good morning, Jack. Listen, I want to confirm a rumor that the only reason I get this gig when Jack is off is I'm the only one close enough to his age.
Well, it's not the age; it's also the appearance, Keith. I mean,
that makes me feel much better. No disrespect, Jack, but that makes me feel much better.
No, Keith.
Jack, I look older than my age. That's even better.
I gotta take a look at the contract that I gave him as far as paying him, because I think he has 2 or 3 different homes in different places of the country. I know he's headed down to Florida, because it's warm now, so Jack feels is the best time to go down to Florida is when it gets hot. So
I didn't know this was a paid gig.
Yeah, well, see, you're in with the wrong crowd, Keith.
I'll get you my invoice out right after the show.
Right. So Keith, I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on in sports at once. We got a very busy show today. We got Philly guy Jamie Paz coming in with all the Philly news. And as we break down the second hour, which we'll be talking a lot about the beginning of the Major League Baseball season starting tomorrow. All these games are going on. We'll even have from the show Talking Baseball with Sal Angioletti himself. So he'll be on later with us in the second hour, folks. So a lot of big things happening in sports, and we'll get to the updates first. And, Keith, we'll start with the NCAA. We're down to the Final Four. We got Gonzaga versus UCLA. Traditionally, UCLA, probably the greatest college basketball program in history, against Gonzaga, who has really started coming on in the last, you figure 8 to 10 years?
Yeah, Gonzaga's really built that program up from scratch, and they're the model for every mid-major to grow to. They're not a mid-major anymore. They are a major basketball program. And it's ironic that they're getting to play a UCLA who is, historically the best program ever. Right. But, they have fallen on harder times, and they are the outsider here as an 11 seed, playing great basketball. Though they may have have had the toughest road to this Final Four. They were the last team or one of the last 4 teams in the field. They had to play the first 4, and they beat a number 1. They beat a number 2. They played great basketball. I mean,
UCLA, like you said, may have the best program in the history of sports, period.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think of all the years that they won down there, and now they're the Cinderella, where it used to be Gonzaga was the Cinderella, right? So, I mean, and Gonzaga's number 1. So it's going to be really interesting. My USC Final Four pick, Keith.
Well, they flamed out against Gonzaga. I really thought they were going to have a shot, but this is a special Gonzaga team, and they got a chance to do something that hasn't been done in, 40 45 or 47 years, or no, 46 years. I can't do math. I'm sorry. Bobby Knight's Indiana team, 32-0 in 75 or 6.
Yeah.
There'll be an asterisk, unfortunately. They shouldn't, because it's been a tough season to navigate, right?
Yeah.
And they won't get their due if they do it because of the season that we had.
Yes, definitely. So good morning to Keith Hayes. Good morning to Carlos, on here almost every day. Carlos, thank you for joining us again today.
Don't be giving Carlos my home address, by the way.
Why, Keith? You can't.
I'm a little worried. I keep pushing his buttons, I think. I don't know.
You keep. That house you have stands out so magnificently in the neighborhood you live in. So with that big mansion you live in. So Keith. And then in the other game we got coming up, we got, what is it? Number 1 Baylor against number 2 Houston. So that's more or less what they thought, the people who set up the brackets, what would happen. It did happen. What do you think about Houston's shot against Baylor?
They'll have a shot just because of the way they play. They're relentless on the boards. Calvin Sampson has done a great job there. He's a great coach, run into trouble in a few stops, but he's coached at some really good programs, and he knows how to coach in these big games. Took Oklahoma to a Final Four eons ago. But Baylor right now is playing like they were playing before they had their COVID outbreak. They're playing great basketball. I think it's going to be a great game. I really do. I think it's going to be very close. I thought that with your USC team too against Gonzaga. I thought they'd give them a battle. But I do like Baylor to win this game at the end of the day and get the final everybody wanted. Gonzaga, with all the craziness that went on early in this tournament, I still think we'll end up with Gonzaga against Baylor.
Yes, yeah, I think so too. But I think Houston does definitely have a shot, and I would love to see UCLA as a Cinderella. That would be awesome. But
it's very interesting. I'm glad they got in the Final Four because on our Final Four show tonight, we've got Larry Farmer, 3-time world champion, NCAA champion back in the 60s, early 70s. So Larry is a great guest on my show. We'll have a lot of fun. I know he was excited yesterday when I talked to him about last night's game. So.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Keith, because tonight, folks, there's a big Northeast streaming sports special, the Final Four, over on TGI Sports. I'll be co-hosting with Keith. We're supposed to have on Big Shaw and his co-host, Kelson Jones. And we're going to have a lot of big guests on there. Keith's done a great job at lining up some guests. Why don't you go ahead and tell them what you got for tonight, Keith?
Tonight we have Rex Walter, who played in a Final Four with Kansas. We've got Butch Lee, 1977 world national NCAA champion with Marquette and Al McGuire's last season, one of my favorite teams when I was a kid. We've got Larry Farmer, as I mentioned, 3-time world. Boy, I can't stop doing it, Mac.
Well, you like world champions, Keith.
I do. I love world champions. I mean, being a Yankee fan, you know how you fall into that. 3-time NCAA champion with UCLA. He later coached UCLA and a few other teams on the Division I level. We've also got Gene Smith from Georgetown, NCAA champion in 1984. We've got Tom Keegan, a sports writer who's covered 20 Final Fours. So we got a special treat for our fans with some culinary advice from a if you want to give them a little plug. That's
we're gonna have on Chef Joe from La Fagata Restaurants in the Zen Group, and any kind of big specials that you watch on TV at home. He's going to show you how to make a dip that can not only it's good for chips and all your snacks, but it's a multi-purpose. All you got to do is add a little bit, and you can make 4 different dips out of it. The guy's unbelievable. He's a great chef, one of the best I've ever met, and I've been in the food business almost 45 years. So that's saying a little something. So it'll be great to have him on for all those people that love to stay home and watch the Final Four, the Super Bowl, whatever. It'll be great to talk to him.
It's a fun spot.
Definitely. So, Keith, let's get into a little bit of more sports in the NBA. The 76ers and the Nets are still on top. They're tied. The Knicks are in 5th. And, and the Celtics are in a 3-way tie for 6th. Last night, the 76ers, they had no Embiid again. Simmons was kind of shut down a little bit. But Tobias Harris keeps doing his thing there. So you got the 76ers lost last night. But I think there's a method to Doc's madness. He has the bench players playing a lot of minutes, and I think he's trying to get them ready for the playoffs. There's no doubt they're going to playoffs. I don't know if they're going to, I don't know if they're going to win the division or not, but they certainly got the horses to do it. And I think Doc Rivers, I think this is why they got him, Keith, because I think he can really teach and show them team basketball.
Yeah, Doc's a great coach. There's no doubt about it. I mean,
in fact,
championship under his belt. You okay there, Mac? Yeah, okay. I'm surprised he's only got one championship under his belt. He does a great job. He's done a great job with this team. Steve Nash, quite frankly, has done a great job with Brooklyn, and I had some doubts about him. But these two teams keep winning with their stars out. I mean, look at the Nets. Durant, when's the last time Durant played?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Durant.
Another thing to keep in mind too, Mac, and I hadn't really given this much thought, but that 6 spots huge because only the first 6 spots are guaranteed getting into playoffs. 8 through 10 play a 1-game play-in for the last 2 spots.
Very true. Very true.
So I really hadn't thought about that until the last week or so. So that 6th spot is, you finish 7 or 8, you have no guarantee of getting in the playoffs. You just have to hope you win that 1-game play-in.
That's true. And, I think, a lot of people, the Nets have made a lot of moves. They picked up a couple more players that have been past all-stars. But you still need the chemistry. I still think that the 76ers got a good chance at them. It's going to be interesting. And the Bucks, you can't count the Bucks out. So I think those 3 teams are going to be there at the end.
The Bucks had played well, and I really thought the Heat were going to start making a run up the standings. I thought they did very well at the trade deadline, and it hasn't happened yet. I mean, they're only 4-6, I think, their last 10. So I thought they would start getting better, although they still have the Knicks number. That's one team the Knicks can't beat. They lost to them again the other night, but it's going to be interesting for that race for that 4 through 6 spot or 10. 4 through 10 is going to be very interesting as we head through the stretch here.
I definitely agree. And what I'm more excited about anything, Keith, this year is that the East has a shot to win a championship. Finally. The West, there was no doubt the last few years the West was going to win it. But with the 76ers and the Nets and maybe the Bucks always have problems in the playoffs. But with the 76ers and Nets, we definitely shot, and the East has a shot at winning a championship this year.
I agree. It's the West is still far deeper.
Yes.
You'll have teams that don't play 500, probably not make the playoffs out there. Where in the East you may have guys under 500 make the playoffs. But I think the top teams in the East are matching up better with the West. And the West, there's some good teams out there. The Jazz are really good. The Nuggets really improved themselves at the trade deadline, and the Suns just continue to surprise me. Monty Williams, who's been around forever, it seems, NBA lifer. He's played, coached, assistant coached everywhere, had a couple of head coaching gigs, but he's really got this team playing well.
Yeah,
I keep waiting for them to falter, but they don't.
I agree, Keith. And there is that question I always pose to people: are the Lakers deep enough to win another championship? We'll see as we go on. In the NHL, Keith, and we could talk about the locals, the Eastern Conference. This has been let me take a turn at first place kind of year. They're all playing each other. The Capitals are back on top again. The Islanders in second. The Penguins have made another move up. They're in third. The Bruins are still in fourth, and the Flyers, even though they won the last couple of games, are still in fifth. And I don't know if the biggest story is, the Capitals really challenging this year, or the Sabres losing 18 in a row.
It's hard to lose 18 games in a row. You got to win a game by mistake, right? That's just they're approaching some historic records, I'm sure. If not in entire sports, at least in the NHL. One thing to keep in mind: the Rangers are playing much better, at least since their horrific start. So I'm not sure. I'll be quite honest. I'm not even sure what the playoff situation is this year in the NHL. There's usually a gazillion teams getting in anyway. So the Rangers get in, they could do some damage come the playoffs. Come playoffs, but the Islanders, I think, are really good. I think the Penguins are really good. Capitals, I don't know yet. No.
I mean, the Rangers got a lot of offense. I mean, they got a very fast team. I don't know if their defense will hold up in the playoffs. We'll find out. I mean, it'd be excellent to see the Rangers get back in the mix again. That's for sure. So, as was mentioned by Carlos, the Rangers did beat the Capital with goals from Panarin, Buchnevich, Chittle, and Is it Keiko? I think it's Keiko is how you pronounce the name. Those were the four the five that scored, and also the Bruins. They beat the Devils. The Bruins with goals from Marchand, McAvey, Richie, and I'll call him Matt G because I'm not even going to try to pronounce that one.
I do a lot of that. That's fine.
Yes. So, and folks, reminder: Philly Sports Guy will be up very shortly with his look on the Phillies news, which includes the Flyers. So that'll be a lot of fun. In other sports news, Keith, the NFL has announced the 17th game schedule. The Giants are going to be playing the Dolphins. Very interesting game to me, of course, me being a Giant fan. I don't know the Pat Scott. I didn't look all the way through it. But there are some questions about this, Keith. I mean, the players have been fighting this for years. The increase in injury, I guess there's a 6% chance. But there's a lot of money that'll be split, I should say, between the owners and the players. So it's going to happen. And
it's always about money, right? Because now they're going to want to get paid for another game. They don't get paid for preseason games. So now you've added a 17th game that they're theoretically not getting paid for. They're certainly not having trouble putting food on the table. Don't get me wrong. But it'll be a problem at some point when their labor talks start up again.
I would imagine. And the thing to remember, another concern that was raised was that a lot of season records are now in jeopardy, right? The extra game gives you that extra statistic to win this, to beat these records. Dickerson, Peyton Manning, big records they have that are going to be that may be broken. But this has happened throughout history, right, Keith?
Absolutely. Baseball expanded, football expanded a couple of different times. Jim Brown's unbreakable record was broken because OJ got to play in 2 more games.
Right.
And to me, it's just it is what it is, right? I mean, it doesn't diminish the person who set the record originally. They were a record holder for X amount of years. That part I don't mind. What I don't care for so much, I really don't like the this crossover gimmick that they're putting in for that final week where everybody plays somebody from the other conference. I'd rather see some division showdown. You can insert that week anywhere, right? But I don't know. They're selling it so hard as this interconference special week, basically. And I just don't see how that generates a lot of excitement when you're heading into the playoffs and you got teams fighting for playoff positions. And I'd rather see some divisional games in those last weeks. That's always what I liked. But
you don't think that 2 games a year is enough, Keith?
No, I don't want an extra game. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you can have this week scheduled with another intra-conference game. I'm okay with that. I just don't think we ought to play it up the last week. The last few weeks, like the Patriots historically have played all division games the last 3 weeks at least of the season.
Gotcha.
And that's what I like to see as we're battling out. Look what happened in the NFC East last year, right? I mean, they weren't very good, but they were all bunched up together and playing each other those last 3 weeks. And
don't remind me about that last game with Philadelphia, please.
Well, I didn't want to single out a game.
Speaking of that, we got the Philly Sports Guy backstage. We'll join in a little bit of the sports news with us before we get to the Philly Sports. How you doing today, Pags? I didn't get you in. Let's try it again.
There we are.
Pags has a little hesitation this morning.
Well, Pags heard me talking about that last game. He's like, I'm out, man. I don't want to talk about that no more.
You're still crying. It's still crying, just like all the Giants fans, still crying.
I've got a towel that's about this long, Pags.
I knew you were coming, Pags, so I thought I'd wind him up a little just before you came in the room.
There you go. It's perfect.
So Pags, before we get to the Philly news, stick with me and Keith here on the sports updates that we're doing. We just talked about the Capitals, kind of surprising everybody. They went back in first. I know the Rangers beat them last night. But it looks like they're for real. I mean, you're almost halfway through the season, if I'm correct, maybe a little more, and they're still up there in the top four. The Penguins making a quick surge. They're there. Your Flyers have won the last 2 games. Of course, you beat the Devils last night and the Sabres before that. Hey, a win's a win, right? I mean, at least you're still up in there. So it's a lot more competitive than maybe people thought. We thought going into the regular season, you had the Islanders, the Flyers, the Bruins. I got a brain freeze right now.
The Islanders,
the Islanders, the Bruins, the Flyers.
Penguins.
Penguins are playing well.
Right. So we had the 4. We thought that we're going to win it, but man, the Capitals and the Penguins are saying, "Wait a minute, we're still here too." So it makes for exciting hockey. The only thing that I'm worried about is that the divisions aren't playing each other right now, right? They're playing they're not playing the other divisions at all. So we really don't know how they match up against the Lightning and the Knights and stuff like that, which I would love to see,
Right. And I'll be honest. So the Capitals are a little bit more for real than the Penguins are. If just watching these games, Chara really solidified their defense. And that makes things a lot different for them in the backside. That was one of their biggest weaknesses. And him going from Boston to Washington really kind of took over the spot where when Niskanen came to the Flyers, that Washington was lacking. So now they got that extra little bit. And I tell you, Chara, even at 34 or 35 years old, he's still a beast back there. I mean, he's tall, he's strong, and he's going to make a difference in the defensive zone, and that's why you're seeing them up top right now. Plus, I've always been a fan of Laviolette as a coach. I mean, I didn't really like what he did with the Flyers when he was here, but I always thought that he was a really good coach, and he's always going to do what's best for the team. And I feel like that he's coaching them really well right now. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, Pittsburgh does this every year. They get in the middle of the season, they start to get up really strong. They go on these hot streaks, and then they come back down to earth. Age is going to kick in for them as we get closer towards the end of the season, and they're going to start to trail off as they always do. And you're going to see them fighting for that last spot. Unfortunately, I think that they're 10 points ahead of the Flyers right now. Although the Flyers do have 2 or 3 games in hand, I feel that it's still. That may be unsurmountable, because of how we are beating each other up in division. And I think this interdivisional season, because of COVID this year, it's going to most affect the Canadian teams.
Right.
I feel that the Canadian teams are going to be the teams that actually you're not going to see many of them make it past the first round, or the first time that, obviously I think there's going to be 2 teams that make it past the first round because they're going to have to play each other, to get into the bubble to be able to play in, the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to see them get knocked out of, because I don't think these Canadian teams are real.
When we cover the Flyers, which you will in a bit, I got a bone to pick with your Flyers. So we'll get that after we get through this.
I have a question too, but we can do it during the Flyer part too.
So of course the girls tournament is going right now too. UConn, beating a very good team, and the foul was not called, should have been called. God. Oh my God! Sue Bird comes out and says it's great for women's basketball, but of course Sue Bird is from UConn, so
she would think that. She would think that. Yeah. Isn't UConn good enough that they don't need that? I mean, I'm a big fan. I'm not a big fan of blaming referees. Right? Don't put yourself in a position to get beat by a bad call at the end of the game. But that was egregious. That was just awful.
It was not the best call I've seen for sure. But anyway, I wanted to mention that because I was interested. Sue Bird thought it was great. And of course, everybody else pretty much thought it was a bad call. So they had the pro day, and Fields comes in, Justin Fields, and he runs a 4.40, right? I mean, the fastest time in 15 years a quarterback has got that speed. It's been clocked at that speed. He made some good throws. I don't know, guys. I mean, is he going to be one of the top 3-4 quarterbacks taken? I think he is.
I do. I mean, I don't know. I think he's the biggest question mark of the top guys, to be honest with you, because of his injury history. And I mean, he didn't play that many games, in his college career, especially because of COVID this year cutting into it. To me, he's the biggest question mark. If I was drafting that guy, I want Ty Lance before him. Obviously Lawrence is going before him, and
Wilson?
I want Zach Wilson. Yeah.
How about you, Philly guy? You think the Philadelphia Eagles may pick up another quarterback that runs?
No.
No.
But I think that's why San Francisco traded up.
I was going to get to that next.
I don't know. I think they got their eye on Lance myself, but you think it's Fields?
I think it's a toss up, and I think that they've always been enamored with speed. Let's see. That's been one of the things that they have always wanted to go after. They like the Vic style of quarterback, and I think they're going to need something like that. I'm not sure what they're doing over there in San Francisco right now. The way that they've structured their contracts and the way that they've done things right now, I'm kind of happy that we get that first round pick from that trade. We got the San Francisco first round pick because I don't believe that San Francisco is going to be a good team. I think that Bosa is going to still need another year before he gets 100%. And I think that, what you saw last year is just a microcosm of what this year is going to look like for them.
Pags, I don't know about that. I think they played tough without a quarterback last year. In fact, they won a couple of games without their starting quarterback. The problem is, as you alluded to, what are they going to do at quarterback? I mean, you've got Jimmy G there, and I know he's not happy about them moving up because he knows they're going for a quarterback.
He's going to get moved.
Is this a move or is this a back?
I think he's going to get moved. They're posturing that they're not going to move him, but they have to. If they telegraph they're going to trade him, then they kill his trade value. So I think they move him before.
Well, you think you really think Fields guys could start this year? I don't.
I think if you draft a quarterback 1, 2, 3 anymore, especially in this NFL in this day and age, you have to start that quarterback. You don't have a choice anymore, and that's kind of what happens. I mean, it's the way the NFL has evolved into. Before, even a number one pick would sit for 1 or 2 years. Doesn't happen that way anymore. This is a new world, and NFL quarterbacks, they want to get them as much much playing time as possible because they want the first day of the rest of their lives to start as soon as possible. And they don't want them to get seasoned anymore. When you had Donovan McNabb is the last one that I can really think of that started, and you had Doug Peterson kind of do the first 6 games, and then you had Donovan come in, and although that there were quarterbacks that started from game 1, that was the first time in a long time that a rookie quarterback started in their first season. And that's when it started to change a little bit. And then it's evolved to, hey, game 1, you're our starter. I mean, look at the Bengals last year. I mean, it's like, hey, you got pick number 1, you're starting game number 1. And to tell you what, he played
well.
He's a beast. Well. He is a beast. I mean, I watched him get crushed by the Eagles and kept shaking it off.
But look what happened to him. I mean,
injuries are injuries. You can't help them.
But Pags, you're on a bad team. Now, listen, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I understand that if you're on a bad team, it really doesn't matter. All right? San Francisco is a legitimate playoff team no matter what you say. All right? They're a legitimate playoff team. If they take Fields and throw him in and he messes up, they may not be a legitimate playoff team. To me, the smartest thing to do, like they did in Green Bay, like they did in Kansas City, like they did in the Ravens, was to let that starting quarterback play and bring that kid in slow. If they throw Fields in, that may kick them out of the playoffs.
Well, so what's going to happen if they keep Jimmy G and he gets hurt? Fields has got to play anyway.
Well, that's a different story. But I mean, if he gets hurt and when he gets hurt, Keith, you got to give this kid some support, right? I mean, look, he doesn't know anything about NFL defenses. He doesn't know anything about the blitz packages that are going to be thrown at him. So you're going to take that kid on a team that you have a legitimate shot at going to playoffs, and you're going to have him start? I don't know. I don't
They
know.
won't ask him to do that much. They didn't ask Jimmy G to do that much. So
Well,
I
and
think
that's where his legs are going to come in real handy.
yeah.
You might be right. I think it'd be a mistake if they did that. They got to have somebody there that can show this kid how to play ball. Because other than that, he may be a wash. I mean, I've seen it happen a million times.
And that's the reason why they don't pay us the big bucks.
What do you mean? I just had this discussion before. I thought I was getting paid for this appearance.
Yeah,
but-
you've never seen Keith's house or Jack's 3 other houses. So so anyway, NFL commissioner, of course, Goodell. We're going to 17 games as we discussed. But he expects to have full stadiums this year. You guys agree with that?
It's debatable still. I mean, it could be. I'm not ready to say there'll be full stadiums come Labor Day. Maybe there'll be 50%, but I don't know.
I'd love to say that Philly is going to be full, but I doubt it.
I would
I
like
just-
to see it, but I doubt it.
So here's the
Right.
one thing that
Texas will be. We know Texas will be.
Here's the one thing that I got out of the 17th game that nobody's talking about that that I feel is like a really big deal. The salary cap didn't change. You're playing a 17th game, but that salary cap didn't change, and they're getting a whole bunch of new revenue. Does that mean that the salary cap next year is going to be ridiculously more now because they're going to get a whole bunch of more revenue? But they're making a 17th game here. They made this salary cap so small, but now next year it's going to be so much larger because of the 17th game. I'm surprised that nobody else is mentioning this right now.
Yeah. Well, they
And-
talked about the cap going up even before this announcement next year, but
For next year, the cap's going to go up because you're going to have people in the stands. There's going to be more revenue that happens.
Right.
So whether they go 50 or they go 100%, it's going to be a lot more revenue that comes through for these teams. That being said, that 17th game is going to make a tremendous amount more money just in TV revenue alone. So, but the fact that they're not doing anything about that this year, they're instituting it this year, but they're not making anything happen about it this year is a little bit of a what is that? All that money going in the owners' pockets this year, and then next year they'll have to give it away.
the players would have had to
There's
sign
something to be
off on
said
it,
for
don't
that.
they? Wouldn't the players have had to sign off on that?
Yes, I thought Pags, the agreement was that if there was a 17 game, when the NFL decided to do this, I thought this was already agreed to, that they were going to split the revenue with the players. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, and what did they get up to? Now they got 51%. I mean,
Sure.
I see this is where we get into the money things, but I know that the salary cap didn't increase because of this. So
But I thought-
if the
I thought
salary
they
cap
did-
didn't increase and you're increasing another game, I mean, what are they just getting their normal check, the same check that they would get for the 16th game, they get for the
Well,
17th game?
They can throw it into the retirement fund or something like that. If they may have come to that kind of agreement with the Players Association too. The Players Association isn't in business of giving away money, that's for sure. So
The truth. I mean, I thought that this was already worked out. If they were going to go to a 17 game, I thought something was already worked out. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I guarantee you that will be in the news if something like that does happen. So, guys, every week or every day I try to do this, but on Wednesday I've been getting Pags involved, and Keith's been asking me about this too. We have our trivia question.
I'm all for my lifetimes. Awesome.
So,
Oh, and I have a bone to pick with the last trivia question I got to.
I know you will. I know
It
you
was
will. I
the
know
wrong.
it's
You
coming
gave
up.
me the wrong answer because I got asked it again, and then I got proven wrong.
You did. Well, Pags, you got to understand, this is not coming from my brain, Pags. This is coming from supposedly reliable sites. So after I ask you this question, you can straighten out my site and my question. But first, what NFL player returned a fumble for 68 yards the wrong way in a game against the San Francisco 49ers that he thought was a TD?
I got this one. This is an easy one.
Yeah, I thought it would be. No, Pags, I want you first because you seem very excited
I'll
about
name the
history.
team. I'll name the team he played for. You name the player. The Minnesota Vikings.
Jim Marshall.
All right, guys. I knew. See, I ain't gonna give you the Jack questions right off the rip because
I broke my streak.
yes, you did. So that is correct. Now tell me, I think
Thanks for the layup.
I think the question that I posed to you last week had something to do with the total the rushing yards of a running back of Philadelphia. Is that correct?
For one game.
For one game, right.
And I immediately thought that it was the 212 yards or 206 yards run by Deuce Staley against the Cowboys. And then you said, no, it was not. It was actually Steve Van Buren.
Right.
When the truth of the matter was, it was 237 yards run
Robert
against
Montgomery.
Detroit in the snow game by one Shady McCoy.
Oh, Shady McCoy.
Okay. Now, you sure that was total rushing? That was rushing yards.
Total rushing yards,
total?
237 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns.
Very good, Pags. Very good. I will definitely write a letter to that site and tell them that they were wrong.
I think it's time to put the
we'll
producer
straighten
on
them
the
out.
trivia questions.
Yes.
Well,
So
I would have never have known until somebody else brought that to my attention. They asked me the same question, and I'm like, "No, this is Steve Van Buren. I just got this question wrong." And they're like, "Oh, no." And they Googled it and found out the right answer.
Okay,
And then I fact checked it. Ed fact checked it.
Right. But Pags, the answer was definitely not Deuce Staley, so that doesn't do you any good.
Correct.
So let's get to the Philly sports while you're here and get these Philly updates. I guess we'll start with opening day, right? You got the Phillies versus the Braves, very tough game. The Braves got a very underrated offense. I'll tell you right now. I looked at some stats. They got a great offense, not only good pitching. So you got Nola going for you tomorrow. Girardi's looking at a couple relievers. I think he has decided on. Am I right saying it's either Spencer or Howard? I think he says he's going to be going with Spencer, and Howard might be a starter. I think that's what he said, or it could be vice versa. But the Phillies open up against a very tough team.
I think, well, first off, Nola has been the opening day pitcher for the last 5 years running. So I don't expect that they were going to go with anything different. In fact, he looked pretty good on his last start in preseason against the Yankees, where I think he struck out 9 and held them to, I think he shut them out for over 6 innings. So I think that that's going to be a good thing. And you know what? The one thing that the Phillies did have last year is a good offense. They scored the 5th most runs in the major leagues. So my expectation is that they're going to be able to compete with Atlanta, at least in terms of the batting, where Atlanta has the little bit of the edge. Actually, a bigger edge is in the bullpen. And I feel like that when you compare the top 5 starters in comparison to the Phillies, that Atlanta wins that battle as well. I think that the first 3 actually go pretty well toe-to-toe. When you get in the 4th and 5th, I think that that's where Atlanta is going to win about 8 more games just in the top 5 rotation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the Braves are easily the best team in that division.
And I've seen a couple of places that they're putting them in second. That the Mets are going to be the top team, and I'm like, I don't trust the Mets. I still don't trust the Mets.
Their bullpen is like throwing a match into a bag of dynamite for crying out loud.
Well, it can't be worse than the Phillies was last year.
Well, this is true. This is true. Do they have an upgrade with Archie Bradley, by the way? Is that an upgrade or not?
It's funny that you say that. I don't know. I think that Archie Bradley is definitely going to help. It can't be any worse than it was last year.
Right.
I'm interested to see how that goes. The one big deal that I thought was a question mark, I'm like scratching my head on. They went with only one left-handed reliever going into this. It's Alvarado, and they did not bring up Jojo Romero, who I thought pitched really well last year. Actually had a pretty decent spring. Didn't have his best spring, but I feel that pitchers warm into their season, and I'm surprised they only went with one left-handed reliever. I think that they're probably going to call him up soon. This may be a little bit of just placating and a little bit of matchmanship to try to say, okay, now we're going to bring him up. Yeah, we're not going to leave him down there. But that was a surprise to me that they only went with one left-handed reliever, and I don't think that that's going to be for very long.
Okay, we'll see what happens. I mean, we didn't need a left-handed reliever when we had Mariano Rivera. So, I mean, it depends how good your pitcher is too, right? So let's get to a little Flyers news, right? I mean, you got your two wins.
Wow.
Yes.
I would say, wow, how to get there. It's like, first off, we got the Rangers, and it takes a defenseman scoring his first ever goal after getting crushed, after giving up the most goals ever, that 9 and then 6, to be able to get to. Thank God I wasn't at that game. Oh my Lord, it would have drove me nuts to have to watch that like that. But I did go to the 2-1 game, and that was a lot better to watch. And they played, and it was the first time the Flyers actually had a practice in 6 weeks, and you saw the difference the 6 weeks make. Then they go into Buffalo, and the first 2 periods, they didn't get out of bed. I felt like it was that they were just skating sluggish, and I felt that Buffalo was very skittish with the puck, and I was surprised that they couldn't take advantage of it. And there it was that finally they came out in the third period and started to pull it all together, and ultimately did win it in overtime. 2 points that they absolutely desperately needed. And when you're down on a 17-game losing streak, unfortunately, the odds are in your favor that you're going to lose number 18 in a row. And that's kind of what happened with Buffalo, that, it's just you start getting in your own head. And you could see with the last minute and a half that the defensemen in Buffalo, the guys that were on the ice, were just nervous. I remember watching that last goal, and the one guy was looking like he was doing a little shimmy shake. You couldn't tell what he wanted to do or how he wanted to go after the guy. And ultimately, because they were so skittish about it, the Flyers were able to put it in the net and then win it in overtime.
I got a bone to pick before Keith goes at you.
Yeah.
Your favorite player on the Flyers was put on waivers. Gots to be here, may not be there anymore. And I just love that name, and I hope Gots to be here will move to one of the New York teams just so I can say that name. And I am definitely calling the Flyers GM and putting them on notice that if Gots to be here is not on the Flyers anymore, we may stop covering the Flyers totally. So I'm going to talk to him, Pags, and I want Gots to be here to be there. Okay. So that's
is he related to He Hate Me, or
it was a little bit of so I'm wondering what's going on with this. Like there is a little bit of a surprise to that, because realistically, out of all the defensemen, I feel like that there are a couple of other choices that could be made there. That, like, I the other guy with the G in his name, Gustafsson, is not defenseman. I can't stand. I don't even want to see him on the ice anymore. But so. I think that this has to do with a little bit of salary cap moving and a little bit of being able to get around certain things. My thought is that he will get picked up by another team, and because he does have a good offensive side to him. It is a little bit of a shame, because he was a little bit of a flash in the pan when he came up from the minors, but he's just been turning the puck over, and he hasn't been getting any better. He has a couple of really great plays, and then he's got some plays where he just doesn't think out there. And I know that AV has been pulling his hair out to talking about this and trying to get him to understand. And I think it's just frustration from the coaching staff to finally say, you know what, we have to actually do something here that may be looked at as a little crazy. Why not try to trade him or anything like that? But realistically, I think that there's not a market for him in terms of the trades. What are you going to get back? A third round pick? We don't know what even a third round pick is worth in the NHL. So it's hard. This is not like the NFL where we understand what a third round pick is. In the NHL, it's so much different going from a first round pick to a second or a third round pick. It's just not the same. So I think that it's, although it's surprising to us, and listen, I'm very, very critical of our general manager. I am not a Fletcher fan. I don't think, I think upper management right now for the Flyers is too corporate. I think that because Comcast owns this team, that they just put this on their books. They don't care as long as the corporations buy the tickets or whatever tickets we're allowed to sell there. They don't care anymore, and it's not as big a deal. Winning the cup is no longer a priority for the Flyers, and I feel very frustrated and angered about that. We used to know the owner of the Flyers forever in this town. Ed Snyder was an icon. He brought hockey to Philadelphia, and then he was always front and center. And now we have no idea who owns the Flyers. We have no idea who's in charge up there. And I have been very critical since Paul Holmgren was the president of this team, because that guy doesn't know how to win a championship at all. And I feel like that he's still calling the shots up there. And until he's gone 100% from this franchise will not win a cup.
There you go. Well said, I guess. I mean,
That's pretty straight to the point.
Yeah, I think I was well spoken. So the 76ers, they're
Can
still.
I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
Just a quick Flyer question. The thing that really seems to separate them from the top teams in the division, and home ice seems to be more important in the NHL in some cases, at least this year, than in a lot of the other sports with the top teams. I mean, the disparity between the Flyers' home record and the Capitals and the Islanders. Islanders have only lost one game at home. Why have the Flyers struggled more at home than some of these other teams in the division? Pegs. Is it just a scheduling thing?
I feel. Well, first off, I the way that the Flyers, they've been playing a tremendous amount. The fact that they couldn't even have one practice within 6 weeks has been a big deal. And the way that the NHL, first off, I don't like these baseball series that they have. Playing 2 games back to back or against an opponent is one thing. When you have 3 games in a row, and at one point we're going to be playing the Devils 4 games in a row, a 4-game series with one team is ridiculous. This isn't baseball. You know what I mean? You need to have some of the change to be able to at least say, okay, this is what's going on. Because when one guy starts to get on top of you and gets that, and gets the edge, the momentum will carry and carry and carry, which is why you see baseball teams can sweep another team. It's not because the other team is that bad. It's because that they just can't seem to get out of their own head. And now that happens in hockey as well. So, and I feel that right now the Flyers have gone in through their midseason slump, which is something that has happened over the last couple of years. And they typically come out of it. And once they come out of it, everything starts to click. Now, this team is a lot different than teams of the past. And I don't feel that the coaching staff or the team itself has got the same type of heart as it had in previous seasons. However, I do think that they don't want to lose, that they are professional. And I feel that, like I said, once you start to see Pittsburgh come back down to, back down the size, I think that the Islanders are going to drop down a little bit. I think that Boston is learning how to, get themselves back together again. And they've been dealing with COVID. So they're going to wind up coming back up and getting back up into the standings. I kind of expect that. So home ice is not as big a deal in the NHL. And although in the regular season it may be, when it comes down to the playoffs, that's where it becomes the bigger deal. But truth of the matter is that a great goalie can carry you through the playoffs, and it don't matter whether you're home or away.
Now you bring up the point I was gonna say is Keith brought me back down this road. Hart, we found out what's wrong with your goalie. He has split up with the team psychologist that he's been going to see, and they think that's affecting him. And that was a headline from Philly. So we now know why Hart is not playing well. It has nothing to do with injuries, Pags, like you said. It has nothing to do with confidence. He's heartbroken over the split up with his psychologist. So that's the problem with Hart.
Very sorry to hear that. That's very sad news.
Yes. So I don't know if you were aware of that, but I figured I'd bring that to your attention. So you
know what? He's still a young kid. You know what I mean? So being heartbroken. All right, I get it. It's I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that with the psychologist, but that's
check out the Philly news. It's in there this morning as I got up, as I was checking the Philly news out.
You
there.
may have to check out your other show, Pegs, to get some advice.
there you go.
So, anyways, let's get to the 76ers. Embiid still hasn't been playing. They lost, but they're still tied with the Nets. I think it's coming down to those two teams. I don't think Milwaukee, I thought, might be getting together. I don't think Milwaukee is going to do it this year. I think it's those two teams. I see Doc Rivers, even in a loss, getting a lot of playing time in with his bench, and they did respond pretty well even in the loss. I think he's doing this on purpose, Pags. I think he wants everybody to get playing time before these playoffs, start happening, because they're going to need him. Embiid, like I said, been hurt. Simmons kind of was kept in check last night. That's not always going to happen, but I feel real good. You guys got a good shot at the division this year, and even at the championship, Pags.
I think this is load management by playing. That's ultimately what he's doing there. He's keeping them kind of rested. Again, whether you're in first or you're in second place, it's not going to matter. I do believe it's going to be the Nets versus the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think that Milwaukee is going to be able to do it. I think that the biggest deal, it's going to be very interesting to watch. Those play-in games are going to make things kind of very interesting, where you immediately think that because of the moves that the Bulls have made and the way that Boston has started to try to solidify their team, that they were going to be the 7th and 8th seed. However, because you got the 9th and the 10th seed, it's not going to matter, because all you got to do is have one bad game and then you're out.
Right.
So, but I kind of expect that it's the Bulls. The Bulls are going to make a little bit of a run, and that could upset those upper tiers. I am still not sold on the Nets. I feel like the Nets are scared. They're trying to pick up everybody in the world that's getting bought out and whatever to try to be able to, because they're afraid of the Sixers. I feel like that they still don't think that they can beat the Sixers at full capacity. And I think that they're right. I don't think that they can beat the Sixers. And I say think, that Giannis sitting there on the court, I tell you, is in Embiid's head. And I tell you, if we play the Bucks in any series, that's going to be you're going to watch Giannis crying at the end of that series, because he's going to have gotten beaten so bad, all because he wanted to be a little funny and sit down on the court in Philadelphia. It's like you want to throw a slap in the face to the Philadelphia fans in the Philadelphia city, and just and then go eat a cheesesteak, during your interview. I tell you, those things stick in the mind of certain players, and especially one who likes to talk as much smack as Joel Embiid. And you better believe that if there's a playoff series against the Bucks, that Joel Embiid is not only going to be playing amazing on the court, off the court, he's going to be relentless, and it's going to create such a media hype. It's going to be very interesting to watch.
Well, Pags, I think the Nets picked up all those guys not for you guys. I think they're trying to go get a championship. And I think
it's got to go through Philly. It's going to wind up having to go through Philly.
I think you're right, and as I talked to Keith about earlier, I'm really excited about one thing, and that the East, the top maybe 3 teams in the East have a shot at winning the championship this year, and we couldn't say that over the last few years. So I think that's exciting for the East anyway.
Well, he did have Toronto a few years ago, but
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
But they went up against a very hurt. Golden State team, and
I agree.
That was because you think about that. Really, again, had he not made that quadruple bounce, basket at the end of the game, I think the Sixers would have been there. I think that the Bucks would have just laid over and died like they did against Toronto. So it's my expectation was that whoever won that series, the way that Golden State was playing, was not going to be able to really compete against either one of the Eastern teams. But I agree. I think that it's going to, I've said from the beginning, I thought that Philadelphia was going to wind up 2 going into the playoffs and then go to the finals against one of the LA teams. And I think, and don't keep out the Lakers. I feel that this is rest right now. I know he's got a high ankle sprain, but, LeBron James being hurt right now is just resting him up for a ridiculous playoff run. And even though they're falling a little bit down in the standings, I'm not concerned about that even a little bit. I think that when it comes down to it, he's going to be back in the finals, or it's going to be a complete LA versus LA Western Conference Finals, and the winner of that series is going to wind up playing the Sixers.
Pags, I kind of disagree with you. I think Utah Jazz has easy enough chance to win that division, and I think Denver has an outside chance too. I mean,
Denver's much improved with the
trade. I look at the Lakers, and I don't know if they're deep enough. If LeBron gets hurt, if Davis gets hurt, they're not going to win it. And LeBron is no young kid anymore. He can't carry the whole team on his back like he did before. We'll see. He might be right, but we'll see.
Winning championships begets winning. You know what I mean? That's the thing. When you know how to win, you continue to win, and that's the one caveat. That's why I think it's going to be an LA versus LA. I understand that Utah's got a great team out there, but they were crybabies when they lost against the Sixers. We won that game, wah, and then they were crybabies because they were the last 2 guys picked for the All-Star game. So ultimately, I feel like that they got a lot of crybaby in them. And when you're a crybaby, you start to get in your own head when it starts to matter. And I feel that that's going to be their downfall.
Could be.
Hey, just real quick on the Sixers, and you guys may have talked about this last week. Were you disappointed in the lack of player movement for the Sixers at the trade deadline? And is George Hill going to be an impactful player for them? We talked about Doc's deep bench already, and his rotation is really long. What do you foresee Hill being able to?
I think Hill's going to add a little bit, and to be honest, I am fantastically happy that they didn't get Kyle Lowry and give up the world. It was funny because, of course, they gave up all their center help. And the first game that happened, of course, because George Hill couldn't play, Dwight Howard gets kicked out. After getting his ring, he gets kicked out after being so dominant in the first 6 minutes of him playing, and he didn't even do nothing. He's getting pushed, and he's the one that gets ejected. The other guy gets to stay. It was, I thought that was very scripted by them because I feel like just the block he did, the way that he was playing that game, he was going to be real dominant. He had 6 points, the block shot, like it's an assist, and he was in the head of that other guy. And that guy pushed him the first time, and then he got pushed a second time, and they kicked out Dwight Howard after getting his ring, after picking up his ring, and they still covered. Not only did they win, they still covered the Sixers that game. So I felt that was very scripted by the referees just to try to keep it close. Of course, now with all the hoopla around referees, especially in the NHL, because they fired one for having the hot mic. I feel like that happens a lot more frequently than we like to even talk about, and especially in the NBA, where right up the street we had a guy who was fixing games. You know what I mean? Right up the street from where I live. He grew up in the same Central League as I am in Delaware County, and he was fixing games. So I think that happens a lot more frequently than people realize and say.
I agree with that too, Pags. So before we let you go, let's get to your Eagles for a minute. And again, the Eagles trade down with that pick to number 12, right? So they're down at number 12 right now. So if they lost, let me put it this way. If they beat Washington, that's where they would have ended up to begin with, Pags. If they beat Washington the last game, they would have been around the 12th pick. So they take the day off. They put their quarterback in that hasn't played correctly in a bunch of games and years. He hasn't started. They put him in against the Giants, and then they end up in the same area that they were to begin with if they lost that game. What the
I feel like where's my tissues? Where's my tissues, Mac? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Not sorry. We wound up getting now a 3rd pick for next season.
True.
And I understand why they're doing that. I feel like that they're going to give a full year to this quarterback.
I agree.
And if by chance he's not the quarterback, you now have an extra asset for next year. I feel that by moving out of the 6th spot, it forces them to not have to take an offensive guy in the first round with that first pick. And I feel like that they were going to be forced to have to pick up a wide receiver with that 6th pick. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are not happy, and they're going to always talk about this draft. Oh, well, they trade. The one thing that I was weird about was that why did this all have to happen now? And I guess this was all really done by San Francisco and not Miami. I was like, well, why couldn't we have done this later? Miami could have gotten that pick before. San Francisco was the reason why I think this needed to get done now. So, and it took me a minute to realize, because I said about this, that they could have waited to the draft to actually make the move from 12 to 6 because San Francisco had made that trade. But I think that this all happened all at once, and they had to finalize the Eagles part. It was supposed to be a 3-team trade, and it wound up being Miami and San Francisco, and then Miami and Philadelphia, instead of it being all at once.
Oh.
And that was the reason why it just had to get finalized that way.
I mean, in my mind, they're not a player away, so I don't think this is a bad deal at all for them to stock up on picks later on.
I feel that they could have gotten a little bit
move.
more compensation from Miami. And I think that Miami was playing a little bit of hard nose because they feel like they got raped in 2017 by Howie Roseman. So there was a little bit more hardball here being played. I feel that Miami is on the uptick. But there again, I feel like that they're a quarterback away. And
you know what? They set themselves up pretty good the next 3 drafts. I'll tell you, they're sitting pretty. Whatever they want to do, trades, picks, whatever.
The GM's working his magic over there. That's for sure. Jack did comment on a little late on one of the topics we had. He says the Jazz and Nets are in the final. Audrey says Jack's driving. I don't believe that. I think a chauffeur is really driving them down there.
Well, then she's texting and driving.
I feel like that he's better off talking about boxing. If we were talking about boxing match, that would be perfect. But he's talking about basketball. I think he's got a little punchy in him.
Yeah, it's just that what you think? That sparring with Vito might have affected him way back when.
Listen, I think Jack is awesome, except for when he gets into the whole relief quarterback thing that he loves. So
right. Listen, Jack has started a new trend in a lot of areas, guys. We just gotta we have to just keep up with him. So that's what it is.
He's an innovator. He's an innovator.
Yes, he is.
He's even figured out how to text and drive at the same time.
Yes. There you go. So,
I don't know. You're right. If he's making as much as Mac implied that he's getting paid, and he's got 3 homes, he's probably got a chauffeur driving him to Florida anyway.
I think he has 5 homes, to be honest with you. But anyway, Pags, again, thank you for coming in. We love having you on every week. Very knowledgeable in Philly sports and sports in general. So Pags will be on tonight on his show, the NFC East, at around 9 o'clock, folks. Go over there and join it. It's a great show. I think Keith will even be on that show too. Keith is just a.
I may need some Red Bull at 9 o'clock.
Yes,
I got a long day ahead of me here.
Yes. Keith loves being in front of the camera, folks, so that's why he's doing all these shows. So,
I watch my own shows when I'm not on your guys' shows. So.
Exactly. He's always critiquing himself. There's no stronger critique on Keith than Keith.
That's true.
There's a lot to critique too. Let me tell you.
He's got 3 shows. He got all day tomorrow. Pags, have a great day. We'll see you tonight. And thanks for coming in again. We enjoy having you, Pags.
See you later,
appreciate
Pags.
it. Thanks for having. Have a great week.
Bye.
Yeah, you too. So there you go, folks. Great Philly sports guy, informative, entertaining. And
Jack, very interesting how you can start the conversation and end it in the same place with him and with the whole giant eagle thing. That's very good.
Yes.
Very impressive.
Thank you. I had to bring it back to that. So, folks, we're going to take our first official timeout. We'll be back in a few minutes after these messages. Please join us. We got a lot more to go over.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm your host, Mac, with your fill-in substitute co-host, Keith Engel from DGI Sports Talk. Great show over there. He does a lot of great stuff. We'll be doing a Final Four show, Northeast Streaming Sports Special tonight from 7 to 9. Join us, and at the same time, we'll also be having an opening day special on Northeast Streaming Sports. We're talking baseball with Sal Angioletti. He will be on the show here coming up soon. And now, Keith, in the second hour, I want to get into the Major League Baseball preview that we're going to do here. And there's a lot of things going on there.
I think that was my phone. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I thought that was one of your sound effects. But let's do it.
No.
Let's do it right, Keith. Right? That's right. Take me out to the ball game, Keith. That's where we're going right now. So all the teams are on and scheduled for today, right? I mean for tomorrow. Sorry. They're all playing. It's the first time in a long time that this has happened. So you got Cleveland at Detroit, the Twins at Let me see if I'm seeing this right. I think it's Milwaukee, if I'm reading it right, or it's Minnesota. Well, I can't read my own writing sometimes. We got
Same way.
yeah, it's Milwaukee. You got Pittsburgh at the Cubs. You got Arizona at San Diego, Texas at KC, the Dodgers at Colorado, St. Louis at the Reds, Tampa Bay at Miami, Chicago, the White Sox at the Angels. You also got Houston at Oakland, San Francisco versus Seattle. And the two games I'm very excited about before we get to the locals are Arizona Diamondbacks against the San Diego Padres. San Diego was a very exciting team, a young team last year. They picked up some real good pitchers. Last year, Arizona, who was in the mid of the pack as far as their stats go with power and RBIs. Starting pitcher for Arizona it looks like Bumgarner will be going for them. And the Padres
tells you a lot about their pitching, by the way.
Yes, and you talk about the Padres, they were near the top in every category: batting, hits, home runs, and even their ERA, Keith. So I'm looking for the Padres to give the Dodgers a real challenge this year. And of course, Arizona's a good team.
The Padres have to challenge the Dodgers after spending all that money. I mean, if they don't, heads are going to roll there. So, but they've done a great job of improving that team, especially the pitching staff is outstanding. I want to back up 1 second about opening day. And one thing that really irks me, a lot of things irk me about Major League Baseball today. And I don't know how you feel. I don't know how Sal feels. We'll talk to him about it, but they make changes away from traditions. Opening day was Cincinnati's all alone for how many years? 100 years, basically. And they've blown that up long ago. It hasn't been that way for a long time. But these are the type of things that I think Major League Baseball just gets in their own way on. You know, and maybe it's not a big deal to a lot of people, but I fall into kind of the Bob Costas, old school and get off my lawn, and it just bugs me to death when Major League Baseball kills some of these traditions. And anyway, I just want to throw that in before we go on.
I agree. I don't like all the changes that all sports really make.
Yeah, they do,
including baseball that affect the tradition of the game. I think it's pretty cool. All the teams are going on at once. I understand what you're saying about Cincinnati, but I do think this adds a little excitement, especially after the COVID season. Maybe that's why they're doing it, Keith. So
this isn't new. I mean, well, not every team would open up on. I don't know if it's every team anyway, but not every team would open up on opening day for sure. But it's been a while since Cincinnati's had that spotlight to themselves anyway.
That's very true.
It's not new.
Houston at Oakland, Keith. Right? Oakland was another exciting team last year. Houston in the middle of the pack last year in runs, home runs, ERAs. I really are looking for. I think Abreu's going for Houston, if I'm not mistaken. In Oakland, again, they were in the middle of the pack, but their ERA was near the top. I think Luzardo is going for Oakland. I think Oakland has a shot this year again, and I think Houston also has a shot. So I think that's going to be another good game to watch if you're not watching the locals.
Yeah, I think Oakland, it's amazing what they do year after year and put a competitive team on the field with the payroll that they work with. And Billy Beane, who's had chances to go to the Red Sox and probably a gazillion other organizations where he'd have lots of money to work with, he's always turned them down. Yeah. And he finds a way to get it done here. He's got a system. They've been able to get over the top. They get to the playoffs. They don't do a whole lot as a rule. But just to put a really good competitive team that always seem, they have a down year here and there, but they're always in the playoff race, it seems. And you look at the roster and you go, who's that guy? There's always guys you don't recognize, especially to begin the year. Yeah. And I've got Chris Bassett starting actually opening day against Zach Greinke, but still, yes, I think it's an interesting matchup. And Houston is an interesting story as well. With fans coming back in the stands, it's going to be a little interesting. They got a pass last year, right? With no fans in the stands, as far as the whole, sign stealing scandal. So I think it's not going to be in the past yet because fans haven't had a chance to have their say.
Well, you said you like tradition. Sign stealing's been going on since the beginning of sports.
No, I don't. Yeah, well, you know what? There's sign stealing, and then there's some of the stuff they were doing was a little above the norm.
Every Saturday we have on Dr. Paul Semendinger, a Yankee historian. He's unbelievable baseball knowledge, and I was telling him about Franchise on the Rise. It's a book about the New York Yankees in the beginning, before they became the Yankees. Of course, they were Highlanders. And when they became the Yankees, they had a system there for stealing signs that was quite innovative, that had a cable running underground, and they could actually move the sign.
Well, that's pretty high tech for the time.
Move the sign to tell the batters what pitch was coming, and they caught him red-handed doing it.
Yeah.
A guy was sitting in the cage back by the where the sign was to be moved, and he was caught. He ran out, and they found his sandwiches and beers back there. I mean, it was interesting. So,
I don't disagree with you. Not to belabor this subject too much, I guess, but I don't disagree with it. It's been going on forever, and the teams claim they knew all about it. So, well, then do something to so they can't steal your signs. I mean, change something up. Yeah. I mean, you said sign stealing goes back forever. One of the biggest home runs in Major League history, Ralph Branca still swears the Giants were stealing the signs before Bobby Thompson hit the home run, right? So,
very, very true. Very true. Yeah. So in the locals, Keith, we got the Yankees and the Rays. The Rays were in the, they were in the average. They were mid.
That was my Jack moment. I'm sorry, not to interrupt you. I guess that was my Jack moment, going back to Ralph Branca and Bobby Thompson.
Hey, listen, any information is better than no information. So the Rays were in the mid of everything. I mean, they were near the top in the ERA, so they had a good pitching staff. I got, from what I read, TJ Zuch is starting. Zuch, I think is his name. The Yankees were in the mid of the pack with average and ERA, but of course their offense was near the top in all categories. Cole, of course, will be starting. There's no doubt about that.
Of course, yeah.
The biggest problem with the Yankees, of course, has been injuries in their starting pitching. Now they've addressed the starting pitching with some moves
in general.
Yes, and they've started some. They've really if they're not hurt, the starting pitcher, if Gruber, former Cy Young Award winner, and they can have their injuries be less than they have been, and from what I understand, they've hired, or they're training differently. Judge and Stanton, they're not worrying so much about bulking up, but more about flexibility. Thank God, finally. You don't have to weigh, 280 pounds and be all muscled at home run. People have been hitting home runs that are a lot less built than that. So hopefully that's true. And for this, Keith, we got Sal backstage already. So let's bring in Sal Angioletti and hope he adds, his great commentary to our discussion here, especially about the locals. So let's bring him up, Keith. And I'm going to get Keith's comment. How are you doing, Sal?
Hello, Sal.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
We're doing great, Sal. So I'm glad you agreed to come on. We told everybody about your big special coming up tonight, the preview of opening day. That will be a Northeast Streaming Sports special. He'll be over there on Zodiac. And everybody will be having two specials going at once. Top four and Sal. Check out Sal. I mean, the opening day, he does a great job for us over there on Northeast Streaming Sports also. So, Sal, you were talking a couple things, and I want to get you up to date. What we were talking about, Keith was about getting ready to go, right? We're starting to talk about the locals now. We kind of covered, the whole baseball schedule. And Keith was just going to comment, I'm going to let him go, about the injury problems the Yankees have had with their power hitters, especially Judge and Stanton. And it seemed that they bulk up a lot, and they're big guys, but they get injured all the time, and maybe there should be a little more flexibility in their training than just, lifting weights and racing around, running around the bases. Keith, what do you think about that? Do you think that flexibility is more important in baseball anyway than any other sport?
Absolutely, absolutely, and the Yankees are a perfect example. I mean, Judge and Stanton can't play 120 games. I mean, and they get hurt and doing some of the simplest tasks you can do in baseball: swinging a bat, running to first base, you know, fielding their position. Now Voigt's hurt. I mean, for some, it's the same kind of thing. Well, he's got a knee injury, right? But still, he's bulked up. Look at him from the time where he was with the Cardinals until now. And these guys get muscle bound. This isn't a new trend either. This has been going on since, you know, Barry Bonds' head grew the size of my computer screen here. You know, it's just, I think it's been a mistake, and it's all geared towards the networks and Major League Baseball again, thinking all people want to see are home runs. The game isn't about home runs, walks, and strikeouts. That's all you see in some of these games, and it's impossible to watch. And I got other opinions, but that's my injury take.
So Sal, I mean, I kind of agree with Keith. There's no more small ball like there used to be. People are just trying to hit home runs. They're trying to hit home runs. They're not bunting anymore. There's no more double steals. There's no more putting pressure on the defense of the opposing team. It's either home run or bust. And, of course, you know, the guys with the most power end up winning the divisions. What do you think? Do you think that the Yankees, for what I heard now, I might be wrong, but this is what I heard, and I got some contacts over there at the Yankees organization, that they are introducing more flexibility to workouts?
Yeah, from what I understand, Keith is right. You know, Stanton and Judge for the last 3 years have had the same injuries.
Yeah.
And they've been on the IL. I don't know if it's the training staff. Like you said, don't forget when we had the last baseball strike, that's when the home runs started flying. They wanted to attract the fans to come back to the game. And that's when Bonds and Sosa and McGuire were like, okay, we got to get the fans back. What are we doing? We're going to give these guys
and everybody
something.
turned their eyes away from what they were doing to get those home runs, right?
Right. Do we juice the balls, the ball lighter, the ball heavier? What are we going to do? Put them in a humidor like they do in Colorado. The ballparks are definitely different now. There's no more cathedrals. I like the old Yankee Stadium. I'm a Yankee fan, and I can't get into this new ballpark. The mystique of the stadium. I mean, you got your Monument Park and everything, but it's not the same walking in to where the bat was when we used to get off the train, and you know. Yep.
So what about what about when you just walk? You're walking up out of the runways or whatever from the gallows where everything is, and walk around, and you just walk out and you see this beautiful ballpark, and you don't get that feeling anymore because you see it from everywhere you walk, you know. And
a lot. Listen, I used to work security over at Chase Stadium, and once the new ballpark opened up, there was a lot of fans that weren't happy. They're still not happy.
Yeah,
and you don't get that when you come off the 7 train and you're walking up that ramp down to Gate E, where it's all crowded and people looking. You look at Citi Field and go, no, we're in Brooklyn. This is Ebbets Field, because the Wilpons were, you know, he went to Lafayette High School where I went in Brooklyn, and he was a Brooklyn Dodger fan. So he made it look like Ebbets Field on the outside, you know, almost exact replica. I can't even talk straight. I'm so need coffee. And that's, you know, fans were complaining the first year Citi Field opened when I was there, and it was like, there's no Mets stuff in the rotunda. It was all Brooklyn Dodgers, and that changed finally. And let me tell you something. They got a very good ball club over there. They're gonna take the back pages from the Yankees, I think. If they it's all about staying healthy. Every team, it's all about staying healthy this year. Last year was a complete wash. I try not to think of last year's games at all, because it was like you blinked your eye and the season was over already. I think the Blue Jays are gonna give the Yankees a run for their money if they stay healthy. Like Springer is gonna be out until I think opening day for the Blue Jays. I think he's gonna stay in Florida from what I heard last, and rest up. So.
Well, let's take a harder look at the Yankees, and we'll definitely get to the Mets. All right, so they made some big acquisitions in the pitching rotation. It looks like Herman, whether you like it or not, might be in that rotation. Gruber, the former Cy Young, if he's healthy. And this has been one of the biggest problems for the Yankees. The bullpen,
Pitching.
yes, I mean, their starting rotation, Sal, it seems like since Mariano left that they're trying to build a great relief staff, but weren't paying attention to starting rotation. And it really doesn't matter how great your relief staff is if you're down 4-0 in the fifth inning. It doesn't matter. So, so do you think these acquisitions, Sal, are going to help the Yankees this year?
It's and Keith might agree. Look at the way we positioned ourselves when we won the championships. It was your starting pitching. Don't forget, we had John Wetland as our closer. Mo was the setup guy. You had Pettit. You had who else? Wells came in later on. Then you traded Wells for Clemens that time, and it was all about the starting staff. And we haven't really had a good starting staff since we last won in 2009.
I agree.
And it still baffles me why they let Tanaka go. I thought he would have stayed, but that was a shock to me. I thought, Tanaka would have definitely stayed. I'm a little upset about that, but there's nothing I can do.
I got a feeling Tanaka might have been set on going back to Japan no matter what, to be honest with you, because he could have got paid somewhere else, and he didn't.
That's true, yeah. It was Yankees a bust, I think, with him.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
I like what Devi Garcia did a little bit last year, in this short season. I think that if Devi Garcia has a big year, the Yankees go all the way. I think if he can come up and be a 15-game winner, and he's in that rotation, I don't know, 4th spot, 3rd spot, 5th spot, wherever it is, probably not the 5th, I think that the Yankees have a real good shot at going all the way. It always seems that there's this one young pitcher on a team that goes to the World Series that comes out of nowhere, Doc Gooden, Pettit, you could go on and on, that come out of nowhere and they have a big season. And Garcia looks like he's got the potential to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's you got Michael King as well. You got I think Clark Schmidt. Don't forget the Yankees. It was the Yankees, Braves, and somebody else had one of the best farm systems in baseball. And then everybody wants to get all these big guys, and you're trading the farm away for guys who are going to get hurt. Are they going to be healthy, or are they going to be the guy that we need? And the Yankees outfielder, the young kid, is 18 now, 19 years old. The center fielder. Mm-hmm. So it's like I'm glad in a way Gardy is back. He's good for the clubhouse. Like you said about Luke Voigt getting hurt, wasn't last year? He played hurt all year with his foot.
He did, yeah.
Which might have led to the problem with the meniscus. Meniscus you can have surgery on, but it's never going to be 100%.
Good point.
So,
I still have, going back to your comment about them winning it all, Jack or Mac. Jack, I do that once a show, no matter what. I always call you Jack once.
Well, we look a lot alike.
We got to get them a little closer, further apart. Mac and Jack is too close. I still, and you can go back and watch the I had a couple mini tirades last year about the Yankees, and the way this team is constructed is just not really. It's not really well constructed. It's home runs or bust. If we aren't hitting home runs, they're losing games. The pitching staff is huge. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I was talking about when with the Yankees in the 90s, when they built that dynasty, they didn't have guys that were hitting 40 home runs a year.
You had a lot of rookies built around some experienced veterans like Charlie
pitching,
Hayes,
defense, timely hitting. That's what won those championships for those teams. They were very well put together. This team, except for DJ and maybe Urshela a little bit, the situational hitting on this team is horrendous. It's awful. You got guys playing out of position in Gleber. I still don't think Gleber's a shortstop. And they got the Gary Sanchez problem, which is not going away.
I've been reading that. People that will defend him. It's going to get in this poor guy's head, and it's going to be a problem. Chirinos is hurt. You had your backup catcher. Higgy is okay. He's not bad.
Yeah, he's good.
What are we going to do now? We have no other backup catcher. I don't believe, do we? Besides
Sal, I
Higgy?
had guys tell me yesterday when I made these points in a post to some of the big Yankee groups about Sanchez, and they were telling me, "Well, what are you going to do? Play Higgy and a 248 lifetime hitter and a little?" Well, you know what? He's not going to do.
Yeah, and here's what they forgot. We had, oh geez, I can't remember his name. He played with Detroit, and he's somewhere else now.
Oh, Romine.
Yeah, Romine. Yeah,
Romine. Yeah.
And then you had Russell Martin, and those guys weren't really big 300 hitters either. They were average hitters, but they were good on the defense.
And they should have moved on. I'm going to agree with Carlos. I can't believe
that was
it.
that was like Piazza. Don't forget, Piazza was a great hitting catcher. He wasn't great on his defense. He had a gun for an arm, but he wasn't that good of a defensive catcher.
Sanchez is neither.
Right.
He's got an arm. His receiving skills are awful. You watch him back there, and you wonder how the pitchers ever get a strike called because he's always all over.
Now, all of a sudden, the last 2 years, he's on one leg and he's a little lower, and somebody changed the way he catches. I can't get it.
But he struggles just to catch the ball.
They did have a coach come in and work with him last year defensively, and that was a disaster.
He had a problem with some coach. He didn't want to hear it or something like that. I could be wrong. I don't know, but they need to work on him. And then then you hear Trevor's story, and then you got to trade this guy and this guy. It's like the gentleman Carlos just said, yeah, we need starting pitching, and if the team stays healthy, we'll win the division. If not, then we'll wind up winning the wild card and watch Toronto take it. But they're hurt too, so.
I got news for both of you. Yankees are going to series this year. Mark my words.
I'm not saying they can't. I just don't like the way this team's constructed.
I think they're going. I think they're going. I think that the starting pitch and addressing that this year is going to put them there, and that's what they needed last year. And I really think that the Yankees will go to the World Series. And the reason why, the easy reason why, folks, is because there's really no competition in the American League. If they were playing in the National League, they wouldn't even make the playoffs. But I think because the competition in the American League is so weak that there's no better team out there than the Yankees. Go right ahead.
The Twins might win 100 games. The White Sox get swept by the Yankees no matter what.
Yeah, the White Sox just lost one of their top stars for about 6 months.
Jimenez,
yeah. That was a big loss to that team.
And the Rays will find some way to win 90 games somehow,
It's possible, and as Sal said, the Blue Jays have definitely got better this year too. So it's going to be interesting.
Getting hurt hurts them a lot. They signed Yates to be their closer, and I think that's going to hurt them too. Their bullpen's going to suffer from that loss.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. So let's go to Baltimore versus the Red Sox. This may be a battle for last, but Baltimore. I'm sorry, surprisingly, the stats for Baltimore last year, because they had that big. I mean, if you guys remember the first part of that last year, Baltimore was in first. That they had a good team starting off anyway. I mean, they were third in the league with runs, home runs. They were in the middle. Pitching was their problem.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Baltimore Orioles may surprise a lot of people this year. The Red Sox, I don't think so much. I mean, they still statistically were good offensively. I mean, they were third in average with runs. They had a decent team, but they just have no pitching at all. They're rebuilding.
Matt Harvey's their number 2 pitcher. I mean, that's a problem.
That's a surprise to me. I'm surprised the Yankees never grabbed him. I thought they were going to work on him.
Yeah, can't say I'm disappointed they didn't, but
listen, I mean, Harvey's had a couple chances. I don't know. I don't know if he's got anything left or not. Hopefully he does. It was when he was great. He was great. There was no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that.
But it's certainly a commentary on your starting pitching when he's your second starter.
There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
The real story in Baltimore is going to be the return of Trey Mancini with the comeback from his cancer.
He's a great story. He's a great story.
I think he's going to get comeback player of the year if it all works out for him.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. That's an interesting game. I mean, like I said, I miss the Red Sox not being up there battling us because it made the league a lot better. it made the division outstanding. I just don't think the Blue Jays or Tampa Bay is going to compete with the Yankees this year. So we'll see what happens. So Sal, let's get to the Mets, and I want to talk about the Mets for a while. Can you stick around? Can you stick around through the break for us?
Sure.
Okay, great. We're going to take a quick break. I know Keith's making his eyes look yellow, so I'm going to.
Eyes are yellow? I already made it.
We're going to take a quick break, folks.
I am old. I need a break every 10 minutes.
We'll be right back, folks, right after these messages. Sal Angelita is with us, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time on the Mets because it's a very interesting story over there in New York, and I want to get to it. So we'll be right back after this, folks.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Anna,
Bye-bye.
remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 InfoLine. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm your host, Mac, with your fill-in co-host, Keith Angle, and we're joined, folks, by Sal Angioletti, who does a great show over on his site, or Northeast Streaming Sports Network, called Talking Baseball with Sal Angioletti. He has a big special coming up with a preview of the baseball season, the season opener, starting tomorrow. We're glad to have him aboard. And so we're going to get back to the locals, and we'll probably circle back to some of the bigger games that will be happening today too. But I really want to get into the Mets, guys. I really think that the Mets are a big story in New York. They've made, of course, they got the new owner, new GM, second-year coach, that's down there with them right now, that coached through the minors. He knows a lot of the younger players. The biggest problem with the Mets last year, besides their pitching, believe it or not, even though they have arguably the best pitcher in the league over there at DeGrom.
Yep.
They had one of the highest ERAs there. They were the best team batting average wise goes, but they couldn't drive in any runs. They didn't have clutch hitting. So we'll start with Keith. Keith, what do you think this year? I mean, have they made enough improvements to win the division there this year, or are they a couple years still in the making?
I think they've definitely made enough improvements to compete for the division, right? I mean, whether those moves turn out to be good in the long term depends. I mean, obviously there's some issues with that right now, right? Again, I'm kind of trying to get my thoughts together here. I had something happen here, but yes, can they compete? Sure. Will they compete? That's why we got to play the games. I mean, I'm still doubtful about the bullpen a great deal. I think that if the Lindor thing carries over into the season, it's going to cause problems as far as distractions go. I just think there's still a lot of question marks there. And I think it's funny too that Alonso says they should pay him the money because Alonso's going to be coming up for a contract at some point too. So I think that's a little bit of an agenda he's got there. Pay him his money so I can get mine later.
How about you, Sal? What do you think? I mean, listen, the Mets, I think with Lindor, they're going to have a problem. He says he wants to be signed this year. In fact, I read somewhere where he wanted to be signed before the season started.
Yeah,
he did.
He's got a deadline tomorrow. Tonight, actually. Yeah.
So what do the Mets do with that? I mean, here you pick up a shortstop that you're hoping really comes through offensively and defensively. He's a young star coming up. And here he is already giving them ultimatums.
I think he's going to sign. I really do. It's funny. Before the pandemic last year, and the guys, we picked the NL East to be a 4-team race. We thought the Mets were going to be up there with the Braves, the Nats, and the Phillies. Because after the Phillies made some moves, and their starting pitching was just like, even their bullpen was like supposedly the highest ERA since World War II was like over a 7 in Philly. So let me tell you something. The Mets look good. I like it. Syndergaard being out doesn't help. But would I give Lindor 10 years? His age. How old is he now?
Isn't it 12 years they offered him?
I think it was 10 for $320. He wants.
Oh, maybe he wanted 12 for.
He wants 12, $385 or something like that. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, so I think he's 25. I'm not
25. In 10 years, he's 35 if he stays healthy. That's why the Yankees didn't go crazy with LeMahieu. We predicted he would probably get 4 or 5 years for a certain amount because you got to look at the age and.
Well, they know they won't get as much value on the back end. They go into that knowing it, right? So. Yeah. These 10-year contracts don't work out. Name me one 10-year contract that's really worked out for the team and hasn't been an albatross for them on the back end, right? Albert Pujols, now he wasn't 25 years old when he signed that contract, given.
Right.
But I don't know. I think Lindor's crazy if he doesn't sign because the shortstop free agency class is pretty strong next year. And
Very,
he
very
may not
strong.
have
Very
he won't have the bargaining chips that he's got right now. So, and when's enough enough?
Yeah. Rizzo just turned down the Cubs offer. So
Yeah. Well, you got
now what do you do with you got Trevor Story and then Corey Seager? The Dodgers just might sign him to a big contract.
Well, and if they don't sign, they're all going to make it. Yeah, it's going to weaken everybody's position in free agency, right? They're not all going to get paid. You got Story, you got Seager, you got Correa from Houston, who is a bounce back potential this year. You got, and then you add Lindor to that if he doesn't sign. I mean, you got
and Carlos turned down the Astros offer as well. So
right.
Well, even looking at the Mets guys, I mean, you got Conforto out there. You still got to sign. I mean, how much funds are you going to have available for these other guys if you're going to give him?
What about Syndergaard?
Right, exactly. So you got two big players there that the Mets that have been playing well, and if you sign Lindor to this big contract, I mean, I don't care how much money you have unless you're the Dodgers right now. There's only so much money going to go around. Right. So
Cohen's not lacking for money, but it's a matter whether he wants to pay the tax on top of that money, right?
And he's a businessman too, Keith. He's not just going to throw the money away. So.
No, I agree.
So so they're playing the Nationals. We all thought the Nationals would be there at the end of the year.
Last year was a disaster for that team.
Right. Go ahead, Sal. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, you you get to the World Series, and then you were dead last. It's like the reverse what the Twins did one year. They went and the Braves going from last to first, and now, they got a good team, the Nationals. And don't forget, you got a starting pitcher who's going to be a free agent after this year.
Yeah. I mean,
with a little age on him.
I mean, I really thought
miles on him though.
That's the truth.
Yeah,
that's the truth.
Even Verlander.
Yeah, he's getting up there too. I mean, he's
a free agent too after he comes back from his injury.
That's very true.
I think the Nationals are going to have a lot of trouble competing in that division this year.
I do too. And I think that the Mets still have a lot of question marks. I mean, you talk defensively, they got 4 of the average to below average players starting there. You got a third baseman who's not that great defensively. Alfonso's not the best defensively. The left fielder and center fielder are also about average. So, I mean, there are still questions. And I know that the Mets will be competing this year, but are they good enough to beat the Braves? And I don't know if they are.
Defense matters.
Yeah, defense matters. I think they might make the wild card, the Mets. I predicted last year for them making the wild card. They started off good. And let's not forget, here come the Marlins after all what they've been through last year and making the playoffs.
I was just going to mention that, Sal. I mean, you're talking to Marlins. The Marlins aren't no pushover, and they do have an excellent pitching staff over there. So I think it's going to be a very good race. And getting to that, we got the Phillies and the Braves. So that I mean, you're talking about the Phillies, who the pitching kind of failed them last year. Offensively, they were good. They were a good team. And the Braves, surprisingly, had a really good offense. If you look at the stats, they're near the top in everything offensively, even more so than their pitching. But I really believe that the Braves, it's their division to lose this year. I don't know about you guys.
I'm in the same boat. I'll jump in real quick. We talked about it a little earlier. I think the Braves have the best team in that position, in that division, the best pitching staff, the best overall lineup, and well-balanced lineup, I think. They play defense. They don't have 5 guys playing out of position like we just talked about with the Mets and even the Yankees in another division. But I just love that team. And unless they get in their own way, I think they got a lot of young pitchers. I just like their staff a lot. I like the whole team, the roster a lot.
Reminds me of the Braves back in the 80s and 90s. Here they come. They used to take the Western Division by storm, and then they moved to the East, and they started winning there. And
I mean, top to bottom, their lineup there's no holes. I mean, Riley's probably the only question mark in the whole lineup at third base, and I think he'll be fine. I like him. I loved him last well, 2 years ago, I guess, when they first brought him up, and he struggled a bit, but he was a top prospect in the organization.
Right.
And he's the only real question mark in the whole lineup that I can see.
Hold on, gentlemen. I got it. Hold on 1 second.
Plus, you brought in Uzana. That's another guy. I can't say his name. Azuna. That was not that hard. That's a big acquisition for them too.
No doubt. I think the Braves are going to be raise a little hell there. They might give the Dodgers a run for their money. I mean, they were there last year, Keith. I mean, they had a lead in the series, and whether the Dodgers, all that superstar power they got or not comes to fruition, or the Padres go ahead and they win that division. I think the Braves are right up there in the top 3 this year. I think it's going to be a 3-way race this year over there anyway.
We talk about pitching, and if the Braves pitching stays healthy, they can match up with the Dodgers, I think. Ian Anderson's right from my area up here. He went to school about 15 miles from where I live. You watch him pitch the end of last year and in the playoffs, that kid is going to be good. He's their 4th starter.
I agree.
I heard you in the Dodgers, and here come those Padres.
Yes. Yes, we were just talking about
a shootout at the OK Corral in that division.
I think one wins the division, the other one gets a wild card, and either one of those can win the World Series.
Yeah, me too.
So what do you guys think about? Yeah, it sure will be. What do you guys think about the Phillies? Do you think they got a shot this year? I mean, again, offensively they were good. Defensively, okay. Pitching, not so good. Do you think they got an answer this year?
Go ahead.
Well, you go out and you get Girardi for your manager, and you know how Joe is, and Joe is great. He changed. What's his name? I can't even think anymore.
It's old age, Sal. Don't worry about it. It comes to all of us. You know what I mean? The thing about you. Go ahead, Sal.
Yeah, they definitely need pitching. It was their bullpen, and my co-host Carl, he's a huge Philly fan, and when you mention the name Phillies, he just all he talks about is that the relief pitching is just horrendous. What was over a 7 ERA last year?
Yeah. Well, we talked earlier. Archie Bradley's an upgrade a bit, and if he stays healthy, he's got a good arm. And their starting pitching, they improved a bit. Chase Anderson pitched really well in Milwaukee last year. They got and Zach Wheeler. If he stays healthy,
yeah,
that was a surprise to me. The Mets not keeping Wheeler. That was a shock right there.
I was a little surprised too myself, but if they got a good lineup. I was hoping Didi would make his way back to New York, to be honest with you. And,
Sir Didi. Yeah, that would have been a little complicated because
I'll find a place for Torres to play. I'll find a place. But he's not a shortstop, I know we're not talking about Didi, but he's not a shortstop.
No.
Well, they did make a move at relief over the Phillies. They got Spencer, I think, is who's going to be their reliever. I'm not sure how good he is. I didn't look up his stats, but I don't think it'd be any worse than what they had last year. So we'll see what happens.
Bradley's going to get the first shot to close games there.
But I'm talking about even in long relief, Keith, where they had a lot of problems.
I got you.
They got David Hale from the Yankees.
Yeah.
The Braves. The Phillies. I'm looking at their pitchers now. You got Bradley.
Well, they put Vince Velasquez, which is not, anytime he's still on your roster, your pitching needs improvement, I think.
Right.
That's the truth. That's the truth. So Sal, as you were talking about the Padres, right? With the big opening day games, we went through the whole list of the games, and the San Diego game is very interesting to me, as I said, and as you said, and I've been saying all along that San Diego last year surprised people. They're not going to surprise people this year. They know they picked up some really good pitchers. Right. They're going up against Arizona. The Diamondbacks are no slouch. What do you see? Would you see San Diego make a statement right away, or is it going to take some time for them to get together?
I talked about this on the show with the guys, and I think the first series with the Dodgers and Padres is there might be a bench clearing fight going on there because we know how Tatis Jr. is with the cockiness of him being a ball player. And that contract is going to set the standard, I think, for all the other shortstops out there. You know, this guy is getting this. How come I'm not getting that? And that's where Lindor comes in right now. So do you give him that kind of money? If the Mets, I believe, sign him and the Polar Bear are going to be the face of the franchise, the both of them over there in Queens. So they'll have, I predict for the Mets in another maybe 2-3 years, they'll make the World Series. Without a doubt.
I would definitely, I agree with you. I think once they get, some of them position players, whether it's through the farm system or whether it's through free agency, and they just upgrade their pitching in a little bit, just a little bit, I think they'll be making a run for the World Series in a couple of years too.
And you look at the starting staff here with San Diego, you had Snell, you got Darvish.
Oh, they're as deep as the Dodgers.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Very good.
They match up well with the Dodgers.
Their bullpen could be their Achilles heel too at some point too. Melanson's their closer, and he had a nice year last year, but it's been a few years since he was an elite closer. So that could blow up in their face. That's the only thing I can see going wrong. They got a solid lineup. Their starting staff is just Yankees would die for that. Any of those guys, I think.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And then David Price is starting in the bullpen for the Dodgers. So that's how deep their staff is. So that's crazy. It's going to be a very interesting games. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Yankees, Red Sox in the late 70s, where either one of those teams won, they would have won the World Series. I mean, they were that good. They kind of set the standard there. So
that's going to be the big. That's going to be like the Yankee-Red Sox rivalry. It's going to be the Dodgers and Padres. It's gonna be off the charts.
I agree with that. So the other game that interested me, and I talked to Keith about, was the Houston-Oakland game. Oakland, as Keith mentioned,
that's another two right there going for that division.
I mean, that is going to be a huge rivalry out there. Oakland seems to always come out of nowhere with these young players. Houston, of course, is a little bit older, a little more experienced. I mean, we'll see what happens there, Sal. That looks like it's going to be a heck of a race over there too.
And they got rid of some ball players in Oakland, of course. They made a few moves and got some guys back. That's going to be
I think it's going to be very.
What's going to go on with Houston? What's going to go on with Houston is going to be crazy because now we got 162 games. We don't have 60 games, and like I told everybody, if they don't expand the playoffs, last year the Yankees and Astros aren't even near playoff contention at all.
Very true.
Those two big teams, not even in it. So can Houston now hang with Oakland through a full season? That's going to be the question now. Can anybody now hang? It's all right. It's now put up a shut up. It's 162 games, guys. Let's go out there, and hopefully it stays 162 games and no expanded playoffs. We'll see who everybody's made out of now.
Yeah, season. The Astros are lucky the Dodgers play in the NL and they don't play in the same league anymore because Joe Kelly would probably get suspended about 10 different times pitching against them.
My head still spins about that, and and we're old timers, and remember the Tigers and the Yankees and Indians being in the same division, and the Braves used to be in the West, and the Brewers were in the American League, and everything just switched around. Why, I have no idea. It still baffles me why they even did that, but what could you do?
I think it would have been fun if they played in the same division, played each other 18 times a game, and watched Joe Kelly gets in every one of those games.
That's like just shoving the Mets into the Yankees division,
Definitely. So So, Sal, we're coming to the end of the show. We're going to let you go. I want to remind everybody to go check out his big opening day preview.
Big show tonight. 7:15. Art Shamsky's coming on, folks. So if you love the Mets, we got Art Shamsky at 7:15 this evening. Can't wait for that. And tomorrow we have a big marathon going on with the Miracle League of Mercer County. If anybody's heard of that, the great nonprofit organization. So I'll be along with them and the Trenton Thunder tomorrow at the Carneys in Hamilton Township in New Jersey. It's a big 7-hour marathon. We'll be live with a lot of special guests tomorrow.
That sounds great, Sal. Have a great show tonight. I'll be on another show, but I'll be watching you on the other camera. So, Keith, when I'm not paying attention, you know what I'm doing over there, all right? So,
gentlemen, thank you so much for everything you've done this year for us. We appreciate it.
Oh, no
Thank
problem.
you, Sal.
Yeah, thank you for your contribution. It's well noted, and you have a great show over there. So you have a great night, Sal. We'll see you tonight on Northeast Sports.
All right, have a great day.
So there you go, Keith. The Sally
Fast 2 hours. Fast 2 hours.
Yes, it's going to be a very busy day for you. Busy day for Northeast Streaming Sports. Of course, we're couried over there on Zodiac. It'll be a big day for everybody. So I want to thank you, Keith, for coming in. We're at the end of the show. Tomorrow, folks, we have on the Iceman John Scully should be on with us. We'll have a former champion, a lightweight champion, a Mets expert will be on with us tomorrow. Talk a little bit about that. And Carter B with his NHL review, preview, and update. Very busy tomorrow, too. Keith, I thank you for coming on. I'll see you tonight. Folks, watch the Final Four show also tonight at 7 to 9. Keith and I will have some huge guests. So,
thanks for having me.
Have a great day. Keith, I'll see you tonight, as I said. And again, thank you for coming in. You did a great job filling in for Jack today.
Great. Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. See y'all tomorrow. See you tonight. See you tomorrow. See you all week here on the Mac and Jack Sports Show. And
See you tomorrow, Jack.
There you go, folks. Have a